All right, I'm going to go through some key points for the annotated bibliography that I wanted to share with you, that I hope's helpful. I'll probably skip over some things. I sometimes I add a lot of information, but I tend to feel like some students have written annotated bibliographies. There's also a lot of great information that's available online. I do have my own format, so if you do find information online, or if you go to the writing center or something, I would recommend still making sure that you're kind of following the guidelines for the annotated bibliography I'm looking for. Essentially, what I would say is that I really want my goal in this process is helping you with the paper, to help prepare you. So, look, in abstract, you would give a very concise summary of what you're looking at. With annotation, what I want you to do is really look at what you want to include from the reading in your paper. What I always tell students is, if you get a good start and you pick the right sources early on, if you spend some time thinking about your paper, it really helps you in the long run. If you wait till the last minute to do the assignment and you just pick like the five first sources that come up on Google or whatever, then a lot of times what happens is I see students sit down to write their paper, and students sort of feel like, oh, I don't really have the sources to really get at what I want to talk about, or these sources don't fit together, they don't connect, and so they have to kind of go back and go through the process again. What I'm hoping is that when you read your sources, you can pull out either information, quotes, data, whatever it is that's going to help you, for your paper. So that's kind of, again, my general um, hope with it. All right, I want to mention another key, really important factor is that you have academic sources. This is a key for the paper. When I grade, one of the most important things to me is that at least the core of the paper came from valid sources. So that would be academic books, and you can tell those pretty easily generally because they're from a university press. So it's like Harvard University Press, or Yale University Press, whatever it is. But it's an academic book. The other source would be peer-reviewed journal articles, and I'm going to show you in a little bit a section that I asked for in the annotated bibliography called assessment, and I will mention some of the things to look for in that. But I will also tell you that I am more than happy, if I get an email and you share with me like a source or a link to a source, and ask me, does this seem valid? Does this seem okay? I'd be more than happy to give you feedback, and my thoughts are on it. Occasionally, I have students who will do topics who might rely on, a report or another element. Generally, I will allow those. Now, the other thing is sometimes when the final paper comes, a student might want to use a quote from, let's say it's a certain issue, or and related to No Child Left Behind or something. They want to use a quote from Obama or something in their paper. That's fine. And maybe that quote comes from a newspaper or something. It's fine to use that source when you're at some point, but I really want the core of your paper, the most of the information, to come from those peer reviewed sources. One of the things you can do as well, and I wish I could do split screen here, to kind of go through it and show you more concisely what I'm talking about. But if you go to EBSCOhost or ERIC, which is one of the sources I would recommend looking for articles, if you go to the library homepage, go to databases, and then go to, by subject, and you can pick education, you'll see ERIC. And ERIC is helpful because it helps kind of narrow down, um, to education related journals, and there's a ton of journals, and information and articles in that database. So generally, with most topics, you should be able to find it. And there's a box you can click to limit your search to peer-reviewed articles. So it's a box kind of midway. If you scroll down the first page where you're searching from, you can find a box that says both. One of the boxes is for full text, which I think is helpful because you can actually get a PDF copy of the articles that come up. And then the other box I think that's helpful is clicking for peer reviewed. And what that helps do is cut out the magazines or opinion pieces or other things. and helps get you to the peer-reviewed journals. All right, so this is the format that I want you to use, and I am going to send an email that has all this information. But I want you to, like, what you'll do is, okay, so it's 5 sources. I asked for 5 sources. 5 sources. What I would do is just, like, number them, like number 1, and then put the citation, the full citation, and then under it, I would put a subtitle that says summary. This is going to have the bulk of your information because this is going to be information about the article. You're going to say the author's main argument or main point or focus is, the following, and then you might say the author uses the following data. You can include quotes. Again, I'm not going to be upset at all if what's in your summary from the annotated bibliography ends up in your paper. So to me, if you write a really good annotated bibliography and you put that into your document, you already you will have some quotes, information, things that are already used in your paper. So that's the summary. I generally recommend about 200, 250 words. But a caveat here is if you have a source that's really good, that's helpful for your paper, do more annotation. And you might even put this is a really important source, so I added more information, or you can, whatever you want to do, you can add to that. But if there's a source that's maybe important, you're going to use it, but it's not quite as helpful, you might do a little bit less annotation under the summary area. For assessment, what I'm looking for is for you to evaluate your source. And I'm not looking for a ton of information here. 1 or 2 sentences would really be sufficient. And I have assessment questions on the PowerPoint that I think are good to look at. And the first few are probably the most important. Is it a peer-reviewed source? So that means, in real life, what that means is generally that that it has an editorial board. This is one of the things I do for my job a lot. I have a bunch on my to-do list right now, but journal editors will send me an email and ask me to read and review an article, and then do a few pages of written feedback and to provide that feedback. And it won't be just me; it'll be other people reviewing that article as well. So that it's been sent out to other people in the field who are familiar with the topic. It's been read, it's been evaluated, and then returned. So that's what peer-reviewed means. So to know that there's an editorial board, it's from a journal, a reputable journal. Pages, look, not every one of your sources needs to be 10 to 20 pages long, but if all of your sources are like 2 or 3 pages, or at least the majority of them, that to me, from what I've seen in the past, doesn't get into enough of context to really help you understand your topic. So I'm looking for you to have at least a couple sources that are between 5 to 30 pages long. A bibliography is also really important. So it has cited sources. Most every credible source that you have will have other cited sources. It situates itself within a body of literature. And as a side note, you can use that bibliography sometimes if you're looking through your topic. Look at other sources. Look at what the authors who are writing what you're reading, look at what they cite. Look at what they use for their paper. And the other ones you can hit on, but I mean I don't require it quite as much. I mean I think it's helpful, but is the author maybe an expert? Those kinds of things. Sometimes you might look at when another helpful hint I would say is look at when your articles are published. For a lot of if you're talking about contemporary topics like testing, policy, with a number of topics, you want to have current sources, the last 10 to 20 years at least. And then some you definitely want much more recent articles. If it's something like a historical based topic or like Mary Wollstonecraft, you could definitely use articles from the 1980s, 1990s. I think generally speaking, those for that topic they would still be potentially relevant. You can use MLA, you can use APA, you could even use Chicago if you want. I let students use whatever citation style they feel comfortable with. I just ask that you're consistent. And generally speaking, if you're going to use like subtitles or that you just have your citations formatted correctly. I don't think I really have much other information other than that. I like to reference Purdue OWL, the online writing lab at Purdue, is a good source for information, and they have a number of examples of annotated bibliography. Although, again, I am looking for a specific style, and I am going to share with you an email of other with examples from other students who've done it correctly, and that you know I think in many ways exceeded my expectations. So I think that would be a good example to follow. In class, I've often given a short kind of general overview or tutorial of EndNote. I'm not going to do that. I posted a video on Canvas from EndNote about like the basics of using it. The only reason I mention it is because it's software that would normally cost you money, but it's available through your Ball State. It's for free through Ball State. So there's a library link. I could share with you the link if you're looking for it, but you can download it. And the library often has online tutorials. And EndNote is citation software, makes it super easy to just import citations from the databases and then put them into a Word document. The problem is obviously it takes a little bit of time to learn how to use it. But if if you do write papers or you're thinking about graduate school, I think it's really really helpful. So I hope this is helpful, and I really appreciate or value any questions you have. So if you have any questions about the annotated bibliography, please let me know, and I'd be happy to read it before you submit it. What some students do too is sometimes they'll do the first citation, they'll annotate it, they'll do the first one, they'll send it to me and say, hey, is this okay? And I kind of give them some feedback if I think they're on the right track or not, and then that helps them do the rest of them. So please, if you think that would help you, please send it to me.